Paul Dawson never believed in superstitions. 56 years of life, 30 of them behind the wheel of a bus, he had seen it all. Accidents, fires, drunken brawls. He had learned not to flinch, not to panic, to do his job calmly and methodically. But on that August day, standing by the old bus and looking at the black mass of wasps covering the rear wheel, he felt something wrong for the first time, something very wrong. The wasps weren't just sitting on the wheel, they were guarding it. And what they were guarding had been waiting for 30 years. The transit depot was located on the outskirts of Trenton, with old hangars, rusty gates, and cracked asphalt. Once the pride of the district with 40 buses on the line, now it was pitiful remnants, a dozen machines, half of them sidelined. Paul had worked here since 1994, starting as a young 30-year-old. He stayed because he didn't know how to do anything else and didn't want to learn. The bus was his life. The route, the passengers, the road. Simple work, honest, without intrigue or deceit. That's what he thought for 30 years. That morning, Paul arrived at work earlier than usual. The dispatcher, Zelda, a stout, grumpy woman, met him at the gate. "Dawson, you've got a new bus." "What new one?" "They pulled one from reserve, the old Liaz. It stood for 10 years, now it's back on the line." "Why me?" "Because you're the only one who can handle this junk properly. The young ones don't know how they break it." Paul grunted. "Handle it properly, that's what they called 30 years of experience. Hands remember every lever." "Where is it?" "In the far hangar, number 47. The far hangar was on the outskirts, by the fence. That's where they herded the scrapped equipment. Buses, trucks, old Volgas, a graveyard of machines, rusty and sad. Paul found the right bus in the corner under the canopy. Liaz 677, yellow-white with peeling paint. An old-timer, but sturdy, they built them to last back then. He approached, walked around it. Inspection was mandatory before every shift, 30 years of habit. Wheels intact, body rusty but no holes, windows cloudy but not broken. And then he froze. The rear left wheel a black spot, wriggling. Paul came closer and recoiled. Wasps, hundreds of wasps covering the wheel, buzzing, swarming. A living, angry black and yellow mass. Paul stepped back to a safe distance. Wasps are no joke, they sting painfully, and for some, allergies are deadly. He wasn't allergic himself, but he didn't want to risk it. Where did they come from? A nest nearby somewhere. He looked around, nothing. Not under the canopy, not on the walls. Only on the wheel. Strange. Wasps usually build nests in shelters, under roofs, in hollows. Why on an open wheel? Paul picked up a stick and threw it from afar. The wasps rose up, buzzing angrily, circled, and settled back in the same place on the same wheel as if tied there. "Zelda, there are wasps," he said, returning to the dispatch office. "What wasps?" "Ordinary ones, on the wheel, a whole swarm." "So what?" "Take some diclorvos and spray them." "There are hundreds, diclorvos won't handle it." Zelda grimaced. "And what to do?" "Call exterminators or firefighters." "What a waste of money on nonsense." "This isn't nonsense. If someone gets stung, you'll be responsible." Zelda looked at him angrily but understandingly. She knew Paul was right. If something happened, management would blame her. "Fine, I'll call someone." The exterminators arrived by lunch, in protective suits with sprayers, professionals by the look of their equipment. "Where are your wasps?" Paul showed them. The specialists approached, inspected. "Interesting," said the senior one. "The nest is inside." "Inside what?" "The wheel. See the gap in the disc? They're crawling in there." Paul peered closer. Indeed, between the disc and the tire, a wide gap, finger thick, and wasps crawling in and out. It happens rarely, but it happens. If there's a cavity inside, dry and warm, wasps love such places. What to do? Poison them, then remove the wheel and clean it. They poison for an hour, special gas killing insects. Wasps fell by the dozens, hundreds of black and yellow carpet on the asphalt. Paul watched and felt something strange. Not pity, wasps aren't dogs to pity. Something else, anxiety. When the last wasp fell, the specialists removed the wheel, heavy, dirty, rolled it to the pit to inspect. "Now we'll see what's in there." The senior took a crowbar, pried the disc, bent the edge and froze. "What the?" Paul approached, looked in, and went cold. A huge nest, the size of a soccer ball, gray, papery, from chewed wood, a typical wasp nest, only the size was atypical. But that wasn't what made Paul freeze. In the center of the nest, something glittered, yellow, metallic. "What is this?" asked the young exterminator. "I don't know." "Get it out." The guy put on a glove, reached inside, poked carefully, slowly, and pulled out a ring. Gold, massive, with a red stone ruby or garnet. Antique, heavy. "Holy cow." The guy whistled. "Looks like gold." The senior twirled the ring in his hands. "Where did it come from in a wheel?" Paul stared and couldn't tear his eyes away. Something familiar about this ring, something from the past. "Let me see." He took the ring, brought it to his eyes. On the inside, engraving letters, numbers. VK 1962. VK Victor Keller. Memory is a strange thing. 30 years had passed, but Paul remembered. Victor Keller, the depot director in the early 90s, tall, gray-haired, strict. Wore suits, spoke properly, unlike other bosses from the former party hacks. Keller came in 1991 from the capital on transfer, established order, raised salaries. Drivers respected him, rare for management. And then he disappeared in 1992, in the fall. They said he ran off with the money, stole the cash, and fled like many back then. Paul didn't believe it. Keller didn't seem like a thief. But what did he know? A simple driver, deciding nothing. "There's more in there," said the young exterminator. "Where?" "In the nest, deeper." The guy reached in again, poked, grimaced, and pulled out bones. Human bones, small, thin finger phalanges, gnawed, yellowed. "This." The young one paled. "What is this?" "Bones," said the senior. "Human." "Where did bones come from in a wheel?" No one answered. Paul looked at the ring, at the bones, and understood. Keller didn't run away. Keller had been here all this time here. They called the police right away. They arrived quickly, to cars, 5 in uniform, cordoned off the area, started inspecting. Paul sat aside on a crate, smoking, hands trembling. 30 years. 30 years he worked here, walked past this bus, past this wheel, and didn't know what was inside. "You found it." The investigator approached, young, in civilian clothes. "Me and the exterminators." "Tell me how it happened." Paul told. "Wasps, wheel, nest, ring, bones." "Did you know Keller?" "Worked under him for 2 years." "What kind of man was he?" "Good, honest, not like a thief." "But they said he stole and ran." "They said." "I don't believe it." "Why?" Paul thought how to explain. "I felt it. Keller wasn't like that. He loved this place, said the depot would be the best in the region. Why would such a man steal?" The investigator nodded, wrote it down. "There'll be more questions. Don't leave the city." The expertise took a week. Paul learned the results from the same investigator. He came himself, without summons. The bones are human phalanges of the right hand. Belonged to a man 40 to 50 years old. Lay there about 30 years. Keller, presumably. DNA comparing with relatives. He has relatives. Daughter lives in the capital. Daughter. Paul didn't know Keller had a daughter. And the ring, gold, 583 hallmark, Soviet standard. Stone, garnet. Engraving VK16 to probably a Jubilee gift. So it's definitely Keller. Almost certainly. Waiting for DNA. Paul was silent, looking out the window at the depot, at the hangars. 30 years. 30 years Keller lay here dead, forgotten. And everyone thought he ran away. "There's more," said the investigator. "What?" "We inspected under the bus, old pit, filled with concrete. Dug it up, found the rest." Paul looked at him, not understanding. "The rest?" "The body. Or rather, the skeleton without the right hand." Silence. Paul digested what he heard. "So they buried him here, under the bus?" "Yes." "Killed, dismembered, buried the hand separately. Put the bus on top like a lid." "Why the hand separate?" "Don't know. Maybe in a hurry. Maybe couldn't remove the ring, or left it in the wheel on purpose as a mark." "A mark. Happens. Killers sometimes leave trophies. Sick ego, sense of power." Paul was silent. It didn't fit in his head. Keller good, honest. Killed, dismembered, buried here in the depot he worked at, built. Who could do this? Rumors spread instantly. The depot is a small world, everyone knows each other. By evening, the whole city was discussing. Human bones found in the wheel of an old bus. Paul walked home and caught glances, curious, wary. He found it. He's at the center of the story. He didn't want this, never wanted to be in the center, but that's how it turned out. At home, his wife Tamara worried. Paul, Is it true about the bones? True. Who is it? Keller, remember. The director who disappeared. Tamara paled. She worked at the depot in the 90s as an accountant, knew Keller. Victor Steven. But they said he ran away. He didn't run. They killed him here, in the depot. Tamara sat down, looking at her husband. I don't believe it. Who? Don't know yet. The next day's interrogations. Paul was called 3 times, asked the same. What he saw, heard, remembered. He remembered little 1992 was far away, another life, another country. Tell about the atmosphere in the depot, asked the investigator. What atmosphere? Conflicts, disputes, who didn't get along with whom. Paul thought, recalled. Keller came, established order, many didn't like it. Who exactly? Well, the old guard, those used to their own way. Stealing, writing off. Keller stopped it. Names? Almost everyone, but the main one, Grayson, deputy for maintenance. Anthony Grayson. Paul nodded. Yes, father of the current owner. Anthony Grayson. Paul remembered him vaguely, in fragments. Fat, red-faced, loud, one of those who always knows how it should be and always does it wrong. In Soviet times, managed the garage under Keller, became deputy. After Keller's disappearance, director. Coincidence? Paul didn't believe in coincidence. 30 years behind the wheel teach. Accidents don't happen. If something looks like a pattern, it is a pattern. Keller disappeared, Grayson took his place. Keller found dead under a bus that stood in Grayson's hangar. Too many connections, too many coincidences. In the evening, the investigator called. Paul Dawson. There's news. Listening. DNA confirmed the remains are Victor Keller's, 100%. Understood. And cause of death? Cranial trauma, blow with a blunt object to the back of the head. They killed him. Yes, killed and buried around the time he disappeared. Paul was silent. So everything said for 30 years a lie. Keller didn't run, they killed him. Do you suspect anyone? We're working. Anthony Grayson died in 2000, can't interrogate. But the son will question. He was 12 then, unlikely involved. 12 years means didn't kill, but might have known, might have helped later. Paul knew Ian Grayson superficially, the depot owner, 45 years old. Came into the business after his father's death in 2000. Before that, and clear what he did, rumors of shady deals, crime. Now a respected man, district council deputy, philanthropist, builds playgrounds, helps the church. Exemplary citizen. But Paul saw something else. Cold, fishy eyes, fake smile like a $3 bill. Young Grayson, one of those who smiles before striking. Father was the same. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. A week later, Paul was called again, not to the police, to the prosecutor's office. More serious. Different investigator, older, colonel, gray-haired with a heavy gaze. Dawson, Paul Nicholas. Yes. Tell about the events of 1992 in detail. Paul told everything he remembered. Keller came in 1991, started reforms. Purchases, routes, salaries. The depot came alive, became profitable. Grayson resisted, publicly supported, behind the scenes sabotaged. Complained to the region, wrote anonymous letters. What anonymous letters? That Keller is a thief, robbing the depot. Was it true? No. Keller was honest. I saw how he worked, counted every penny. Then why the letters? To remove him. Grayson wanted his place. The colonel nodded, wrote it down. What happened when Keller disappeared? Paul recalled, hard. 30 years ago. Didn't come to work in the morning. Called home, no answer. Sent someone apartment empty. And what did they decide? First thought sick, then checked the cash, money gone. How much? A lot, millions of rubles back then, huge money. And decided he stole. Grayson decided. He announced it when Keller disappeared. Director ran with the money. The colonel leaned back in his chair, looked at Paul appraisingly. Did you believe Keller stole? No. Why? Not like him. Honor, dignity, not empty words for him. But everyone believed. Everyone wanted to believe. Easier to blame one person than seek truth. And you searched. Paul was silent. No. Afraid of what? Don't know. Times were like that. 1992, everyone for themselves. Stick out, get hit. Regret? Regret. 30 years regret. He left the prosecutor's office broken, sat on a bench, lit up, hands shaking. 30 years. 30 years he knew something was off, Felt Keller no thief but silent. Worked, got salary, asked no questions. Coward. Ordinary coward. And Keller lay in the pit under the bus in his own depot waiting for someone to find. Wasps found before people. Wasps. Unexpected visit in the evening. Doorbell. Paul opened and froze. Ian Grayson on the threshold, smiling that same fake smile. Paul Nicholas, may I come in? Why? Talk neighborly. Paul didn't want to let him in but stepped aside. Why? He didn't know himself. Grayson entered, looked around. Modest apartment to room, old furniture, still Soviet. Living well, he said. Modestly but decently. What do you want? Straight talk, I like that. Grayson sat without invitation. You, Paul, got into an interesting story. Didn't get in, it happened. Nothing happens by itself. But anyway, main thing, what next? And what's next? Depends on you. Grayson looked at him coldly, studying the smile gone. The cops are digging, asking about my father, about Keller. You told them a lot. Told what I know. Exactly, you know a lot, remember even more. And? I want to agree nicely. Paul was silent, looked at Grayson, at the cold eyes, at the fake smile. Agree on what? On silence. Grayson pulled out a thick envelope, stuffed. Here, $1 million. Your yearly salary for forgetting about my father, about Keller, about everything. Paul looked at the envelope. 1 million rubles, big money for a bus driver. And if I don't forget, then badly. I have connections, possibilities. Can make life unbearable for you, your wife, kids. I have no kids. Wife's enough. Silence. Paul looked at Grayson long, motionless. Then stood, went to the door, opened. Get out. What? Get out of my house and take your envelope. Grayson paled, didn't expect refusal. You understand what you're doing? I understand. 30 years silent enough. Your father killed Keller. You know it, and I know. You prove nothing. We'll see. Grayson stood, approached the door close. You'll regret, he said quietly. Very regret. And left. That night, Paul didn't sleep, lay, stared at the ceiling, thought. Grayson scared means something to fear. Means truth on the surface. Father killed Keller, son knows, covers. 30 years living on that, on blood, on lies. But how to prove? Old Grayson dead, no witnesses, only bones in the pit, ring in the wheel. Need witnesses, those who knew, who saw. 30 years passed, who's left? In the morning, went to the city archive, dusty, stored old documents, Soviet and post-Soviet 90s. Paul searched the depot worker lists for 1990 to found in an hour. Yellowed sheets, typewritten text. Transit depot, staff schedule. Director Keller versus Deputy for Maintenance Grayson AP, Chief Mechanic Simmons ID, Accountant Loseva TM. Loseva Tamara. His wife worked there. Paul knew but didn't think before, didn't connect. Now connected. Came home excited. Tamara in the kitchen, cooking lunch. Tara, said Paul, need to talk. About what? About Keller. About what happened. Tamara froze, turned slowly. Paul, I don't want. I know you don't, but need to. You worked in accounting, you knew about the money. What money? That Keller supposedly stole. You kept the books, you know if they were there or not. Tamara was silent, face paled. Paul, it's dangerous. I know, but enough, 30 years silent. Tamara sat, looked at her husband with pain, with fear. Fine, she said finally. I'll tell. The story was scary. Keller didn't steal, Tamara said. I know for sure, every ruble accounted, every penny in place. Then where the missing money? Grayson, he stole for years, systematically. Wrote off fuel, parts, sold on the side. Keller knew. Found out a week before. Before that. Called me, asked. What's with the documents? I showed everything. He paled, said Grayson, thief, will fire. And a week later disappeared. And Grayson announced Keller stole the money. But it's the opposite. I know. Tamara cried. But what could I? Grayson became director, told me. Silent, stay, talk, regret, and you silent. Silent. 30 years silent. Forgive me, Paul, forgive. Paul sat stunned. His wife knew 30 years, knew and silent. Angry at her. No, he's saying, also silent, also afraid. All silent, whole depot, whole city. Because easier, because scary. But now enough. You'll tell, said Paul, to the investigator everything you know. Paul, I'm afraid. Me too, but need to. Keller 30 years in pit, his daughter all life thought father thief. Unfair. Tamara looked at him long, motionless. Fine, she said finally. I'll tell. You're right enough, silent. Next day to prosecutor's office together. Tamara gave testimony 3 hours, told everything about Grayson's theft, about documents, about threats. Investigator wrote silently, attentively. This changes things, he said at end. If prove old Grayson not just killer, removed witness to his crimes. And young Grayson. Harder with him. He was 12, but if knew, if helped hide. He knows, said Paul. Came to me, offered money for silence, threatened. Investigator froze. Threatened? Yes, said, make life unbearable. That's pressure on witness, serious charge. They arrested young Grayson 2 days later. Paul learned from news. Prominent entrepreneur arrested on suspicion of covering up murder. Depot sealed. Searches began. And found in Grayson's safe old documents, 1990 to accounting with erasures. And a diary. Old Grayson kept a diary. Color dangerous, knows too much. Me to solve issue. Solved. All clean, no one saw. Buried under bus, no one find. Announced Keller, ran, everyone believed. Now I'm director. Handwritten confession after 30 years, but confession. News spread like fire. Deputy arrested for covering up 30-year-old murder. Truth about missing director. Wasps uncovered half-century crime. Journalists flocked like those wasps, staked out Depot. Prosecutors, Paul's house. Shoved mix, asked questions. Hal found remains. By chance wasps drew attention. Knew Keller. Worked under him, good man. What feel as person who uncovered crime? Paul silent. What feel? Not joy, definitely. Fatigue, emptiness, and guilt for 30 years silence. They interrogated Grayson a week. First denied everything. Knew nothing, father didn't tell, diary fake. Then showed documents accounting with his signatures, money transfers to his accounts. 30 years he lived on money stolen by father, on money soaked in Keller's blood. And broke. Yes, he said on 5th day. Knew since 20. Father told before death in 2000. Son, sin on me killed Keller, but for family, so we live well, and you silent. Silent. What could I? Father dead, Keller dead, who benefits? His daughter. Grayson silent, lowered eyes. I didn't think about her. 30 years didn't think. 30 years. Trial set for fall. Grayson charged. Covering up especially grave crime, pressure on witnesses. Not murder, but serious, up to 10 years. Paul got subpoena as witness, main prosecution witness. And he got address. Keller's daughter Marina Victoria lives in Capitol, works as doctor. 62 years. 60 to mean she was 30 when father disappeared. Adult, understood everything. 30 years lived with stigma, thief's daughter. Paul had to tell her truth personally, eye to eye. To Capitol on Saturday. Train, subway, bus 3 hours to address in suburb. New district, high rises, playgrounds. Ordinary panel house, apartment on 7th floor. Paul stood at door, couldn't ring. What say? How start? Hello, I found your father in bus, will he killed 30 years ago. Absurd but truth. Rang. Woman open, not young. Gray-haired but beautiful. Gray eyes, smart, tired. You to whom? Marina Victoria Keller. Yes, and you? Paul Dawson from Trenton. I worked with your father. Woman froze, face hardened. With father? Yes, in Depot in 90s. Why here? Paul silent, how say? May I come in? Talk not for threshold. Marina looked long, distrustfully, then stepped aside. Enter. Apartment modest, clean books on shelves, photos on walls. Children, grandchildren, ordinary family, and not one photo of father. Not one. Tea? Asked Marina. Won't refuse. Sat in kitchen, small, cozy, window to yard, sun shining. Listening, said Marina. Why came? You see news about Trenton Depot. No, I don't watch news. Then, Paul hesitated, then I have to tell from beginning. Told half hour. Bus, wasps, nest, ring with initials, bones, investigation, Grayson. Marina listened silently, motionless, face frozen, mask. When Paul finished, long silent. So, voice broke. So he didn't run? No. Killed. By Grayson? Deputy. Yes, because your father learned of theft and would fire. And 30 years he lay there. Yes, under bus in pit. And part in wheel. Wasps found. Marina covered face with hands, shoulders shook. Cried quietly, soundlessly like person who forgot how to cry loud. Paul sat, not knowing what do. Comfort. How comfort in such? Silent, waited. Finally Marina raised head, eyes red, wet. 30 years, she said. 30 years I hated him. I know. You don't know. She shook head. Can't know. Stood, went to window. When he disappeared I 30, husband, child, good life. And suddenly father ran with money, thief. You didn't believe. At first no, searched, called, wrote. Thought kidnapped, killed. But all said one. Ran, stole, and ran. And you believed. After year believed because he didn't return, didn't call, didn't write. Means true, means abandoned. Marina silent, looked out window at children in yard, at swings. Mother died 3 years later from grief, from shame. She loved him all life, didn't survive betrayal. I'm sorry. Me too. Marina turned. Raised daughter without grandpa, without photos, without stories. She asked why no grandpa, I said. Died. Couldn't say he thief. He not thief. Now no, after 30 years no. Paul pulled package, put on table. This for you, father's ring. Investigation returned as item no longer needed. Marina took package, opened, pulled ring, heavy, gold. Looked long, motionless. I remember, whispered. He wore always. Mother gave on 40th birthday. See engraving. VK 1960 to Victor Keller. Yes. Never took off, said talisman. While on hand, all good. Now yours. Marina put ring on ring, finger like wedding band. Thank you, she said. Thank you for bringing, for finding him. Wasps found, I just noticed. All the same, if not you, no one would know another 30 years. No one. Talk dragged to evening. Marina asked about father, about work, about depot, how lived, how worked, what was like. Paul told all, remembered little but important. He loved his job, said Paul. Came first, left last. Knew every bus, every driver. And about us talked about daughter with pride. My Marina doctor, saves people. Marina smiled first time that day. He wanted me doctor from childhood. Said most important profession, heal people. You became for him. And he didn't see. Left late last train. Marina saw to door. Paul Nicholas, she said. You'll come to trial? Well, I'm main witness. Then see. I'll be too. Why? Want see punish father's killer. Want look him in eyes. Paul nodded, understood. One more, said Marina. Funeral when give body. After trial probably when finish expertises. You'll help organize? I don't know how done. Help, of course help. Marina hugged him suddenly, tight. Thank you, whispered. For everything, thank you. On train, didn't sleep, sat by window. Looked at darkness, at village lights, at tree silhouettes. Thought about Marina, about woman who 30 years hated father, and suddenly learned truth. What she feel? Relief, anger, guilt all at once probably. Like him when found bones. 30 years lies, 30 years each carried own burden. Paul silence, Marina hate, tomorrow fear. And only Keller carried death silently, patiently waited till someone find. Wasps found. Strange but fair. Home tomorrow waited. How all went. Normal. Told. How she cried, then calmed. Asked about father. What next? Trial, funeral, life. Tamara sat nearby, took hand. Paul, I thought a lot. About what? About what we did, 30 years silent. Let killer live peacefully. This. Wrong. No. But you fixed, found, dug, told. Important. Wasps found. Wasps found bones and you found truth. Different. Paul silent, looked at wife, at gray hair, at wrinkles. 30 years together, 30 years silent about same. We'll fix, he said. Both at trial tell all. Let all know. Yes, let know. Weeks to trial dragged slowly. Paul worked as usual. Route, passengers, road. But all different. People looked, recognized. That one who found. Some thanked. Well done, restored justice. Others glanced sideways. Why stir past? Paul didn't argue, each sees own way. Main he knew did right. Week before trial call, unknown number. Male voice. Paul Dawson. Yes. My name's Samuel Everett. I worked at Depot in 90s, under Keller. Don't remember you. I left in 1991 before all this. But know something important. What? Not on phone. Can meet. Paul thought. Trap, provocation. But voice sounded sincere, tired, broken. Where? In park by fountain tomorrow at 10. Will be. Recognized Everett right away. Old man 70, thin, hunched but eyes alive, sharp. Remember you, said Everett. Young driver always on time. And you know, sorry. Nothing, I worked in garage, not online. We rarely crossed. Sat on bench. Park empty, morning only pigeons pecking by fountain. Why wanted meat? Everett silent, looked at pigeons. I saw, he said finally. That night saw. Saw what? How they killed Keller. With own eyes. Story scary. Worked night shift, told Everett. Guarded garage. Ordinary night, nothing special. And suddenly car Grayson's Volga drives in territory. Late night strange. What he do at night? But boss, not my business. Further second car, Keller's. He arrived 10 minutes later and went to far hangar, where Grayson. You watched. Not specially but curious. Approached closer, hid behind corner, and heard. What? Scream short, terrible. Then dull blow, and silence. Everett's silent hands trembled. I peeked, saw Grayson standing over body with crowbar in hand. And Keller lying not moving. And what you did? Nothing. Everett lowered head. Ran, hid like coward. Paul looked at old man without anger, without judgment. Understood 90s scary time, each survived as could. Why silent 30 years? Afraid. Grayson dangerous man, killed once, kill second. And now why speak? Because he dead and son under investigation. No one fear. And conscience. 30 years not slept normal. Every night see Keller lying not moving. Want free. Tell at trial? Everett nodded. Tell. Time. Trial started in October. Regional in Trenton. Big hall, wooden benches, coat of arms on wall. Journalists in front rows, cameras at entrance. Paul sat in hall next to tomorrow, waited turn. Grayson on defendant bench, haggard, aged in 3 months, under arrest. Where gone polish, confidence. Sits hunched, looks at floor. Next lawyers, too expensive, but faces sour. Understand case lost. And opposite Marina in black dress, with father's ring on finger. Looks at Grayson without blinking, 30 years hate in one gaze. Judge woman 50, strict, attentive, read accusation even, impassive voice. Grayson Ian Anthony accused of covering up especially grave crime committed by his father Grayson Anthony Paul, as well as pressure on witnesses, bribery attempts. Long, detailed articles, points, circumstances. Grayson listened motionless, sometimes nodded when lawyer whispered. Defendant, do you admit guilt? Grayson stood, cleared throat. Partially, Your Honor. Explain. I admit knew about father's crime but didn't participate, didn't help hide. Just silent. 30 years silent. Yes. And don't consider covering. Grayson hesitated, lawyer tugged sleeve. My client acted from fear, interjected lawyer. Feared father alive, feared consequences after death. Mitigating circumstance. Judge snorted, not convinced. First witness. Paul went to stand, put hand on Bible, swore tell truth. Tell how discovered remains. Paul told for umpteenth time. Bus, wasps, nest, ring, bones. You knew Keller personally? Yes, worked under him 2 years. What was he like? Honest, decent, not like thief. But all thought he stole and ran. All said so. I didn't believe. Why? Felt. Keller not such person. Lawyer jumped. Objection. Witness expresses subjective opinion, not backed by facts. Objection overruled. Witness describes personal impressions. Paul continued, told about Grayson's visit, about envelope with money, about threats. He said literally, make life unbearable for me and wife. How reacted? Kicked out. Refused, silent. Judge nodded, noted. Second witness tomorrow. Nervous, badly, voice trembled, hands shook. You worked as accountant in Depot. Yes, from 89 to 90p. Tell about financial violations. Tamara told about old Grayson's theft, about erasures in documents, about how Keller learned it and would fire deputy. You reported to anyone? No. Tomorrow lowered eyes. Afraid of what? Grayson threatened. If talk regret, I believed. 30 years silent. 30 years shame, but yes. Lawyer jumped again. Witness wife of first witness testimonies may be coordinated. Objection overruled. Facts confirmed by documents. Third witness Everett. Old man came slowly, leaning on cane, sat on chair. Judge allowed considering age. Introduced to court. Everett Samuel Peter, 72, former transit depot worker. What can you report on case? Everett silent, gathered spirit. I saw how killed Keller. Own eyes. Hall murmured. Journalists clicked cameras. Judge knocked gavel. Silence. Witness, continue. Everett told, same voice as to Paul. Night shift, to cars, scream from hangar, Grayson over body with crowbar. You sure it was old Grayson? Sure knew him by face, worked together 5 years. And you didn't report to police? No. Everett lowered head. Afraid. Grayson dangerous connections in police, administration. And now why speak? Because he dead and conscience. 30 years not slept normal. Want die peacefully. Judge nodded, turned to defendant. Grayson, what say? Young Grayson paled. Didn't expect eyewitness. I didn't know. Father didn't tell details. But knew he killed. Knew but didn't see, didn't participate. However, used money stolen by Father Depot he captured after murder. That's inheritance. Legal inheritance soaked in blood. Grayson silent, lowered eyes. Prosecutor spoke harshly. Your Honor, before us not just covering system. 30 years defendant lived on money stolen by father. 30 years knew father killer and silent. Moreover, when truth began emerge he tried stop it, pressured witnesses, offered bribes. Not passive silence, active complicity. Ask maximum term 10 years imprisonment. Lawyer defended. My client not killer, he 12 when Keller died. Couldn't participate, couldn't prevent. Yes silent but from fear, not greed. Feared father, feared truth. Human weakness not crime. Ask probation or minimum. Last word Marina as victim had right. Stood, went to stand, looked at Grayson long, silently. He didn't raise eyes. 30 years, she began. 30 years I hated father, thought abandoned us, stole and ran. My mother died from grief, didn't survive betrayal. And no betrayal. My daughter grew without grandpa, I didn't show photos, didn't tell stories. Ashamed of own father. And he lay in pit killed, forgotten. 30 years waited till someone find. Marina silent, tears flowed down cheeks. You ask what I want. Justice not revenge. Justice so all know. My father not thief, he victim. Honest man killed for honesty. And this, she pointed at Grayson, this person knew 30 years knew and silent. Lived in house bought with my father's blood. Drove cars paid by his death. Let him sit, let think every day about what his father did and what he did himself with silence. Verdict in week. Hall full, all waited. Journalists, relatives, just curious. Judge came with folder, solemn. In name of federation. Read long, detailed. Circumstances, evidence, conclusions. Court finds Grayson Ian Anthony guilty of covering up especially grave crime, pressure on witnesses, bribery attempts. Guilty. Paul exhaled. And assigns punishment in form of imprisonment for term of 7 years to serve in general regime colony. 7 years not 10, but enough. With confiscation of property obtained by crime. Confiscation depot, house, cars all father acquired taken. Grayson sat motionless, pale. Lawyers whispered, he didn't listen. End for him end. After session on court steps Marina stood alone, looked at sky gray October. Paul approached. How you? Don't know. She smiled weakly. Thought easier when punish. And? Not easier. Father not return, mother not return, 30 years not return. But justice. Yes, justice. Marina looked at him. Thank you for everything. I did nothing. Did found, not afraid, brought to end. Wasps found. Wasps found bones, you found truth. Paul silent, didn't know what answer. Now funeral, said Marina. Body given can bury. When? Saturday. You'll come. Come definitely. Funeral on Saturday as promised. Trenton City Cemetery. Autumn, leaves, gray sky. Many came. Former depot workers, journalists, just people who knew Keller and who learn it only now. Coffin closed after 30 years in ground. Nothing to look at. Priest same as at trial, old with kind face read prayer. Lord, rest soul of your servant Victor. Marina stood by coffin in black with flowers. Next daughter, grandchildren family Keller didn't see. Paul stood aside with Tamara, with Everett silently, not interfering. Looked at coffin at simple wooden box. They're men he knew, worked with, respected, and didn't protect. 30 years too long. But better late than never. Lowered coffin to orchestra sounds military honors. Keller not military but city decided deserved as man died for truth. Marina threw handful earth, daughter after, grandchildren small, not understanding. Goodbye, Dad, said Marina. Forgive not believed, forgive hated. Now no truth now proud. Paul threw earth to Claude hit lid dully. Forgive, Victor Stephen that not searched, that silent. Now all different. After funeral wake in cafe near cemetery. Simple table, simple food as per custom. Sat relatives, colleagues talked about Keller, about life, about justice. For Victor Stephen, raised glass old driver. Good man honest. For honest, repeated all drank silently, no clink. Marina sat next to Paul looked at father's photo. Young, smiling. No, she said quietly. I almost forgot how he looked. 30 years without photos through all wind decided he thief. And now found in mother's old albums. Look every day remember. That's good. Good. She smiled. First time in 30 years good. In evening dispersed. Paul with Tamara home to own apartment. Marina to capital to family. On train silent tired, exhausted. Paul, said Tamara finally. You glad? Glad what? That all ended that justice. Paul thought. Glad not word calm yes. Did what could, fixed what possible. And what not. Can't return 30 years to Keller, to Marina, to us. That's lost forever. Tamara took his hand. But we alive and can live further. Honestly. Can. Now can. A year passed. Life continued autumn to winter, winter to spring. Snow melted, leaves bloomed. Paul worked as usual. Route, passengers, rode. But something changed. People looked different not with curiosity, with respect. That Dawson who found. Paul didn't like fame, never sought but accepted as part of what did. Depot closed after confiscation property sold at auction, buses scattered to other enterprises. Territory bought by developer planned housing. Paul learned by chance from newspaper. On transit depot site build residential complex. Residential complex on place where man killed, where body lay 30 years wrong, totally wrong. In evening called Marina. Over year friends. Called weekly, sometimes more. Strange friendship between bus driver and capital doctor but real. Marina Victoria, it's Paul. Hello, Paul Nicholas. How things? Normal but bad news. What happened? Depot demolishing build housing. Pause. And? Nothing left no memory. People lived not knowing what here was. Marina silent, thought. You want do something. Want monument or plaque so remember. Possible. Don't know but try. Tried. Next day went to administration to deputy mayor for culture. Young woman, energetic listened attentively. You want memorial plaque? Yes on place found body or nearby. Private territory developer must agree. Talk to him. Woman paused. Try but no promise. Answer came month later. Developer agreed on condition plaque not on complex territory but nearby at entrance on public land. Paul agreed main thing will be. Now money question. Plaque, installation, paperwork not millions but not pennies. Paul calculated own not enough. Driver pension not splurge. Called Marina. Developer agreed but need money. How much? 100,000 roughly. I'll give. Marina Victoria, I not ask. No but want. This for dad for memory of him. Money collected together. Marina half, Paul with Tamara quarter, rest pitched by former depot workers who remembered Keller. Plaque ordered at workshop from acquaintance. Granite, gold letters. On this place in 1990 to killed Keller Victor Stephen depot director, honest man. 30 years truth hidden. Remember. Simple, strict like Keller himself. Plain and strict. Installation set for October exactly year after verdict. Symbolic. Many came. Marina with daughter, Paul with Tamara, Everett, former depot workers who remained, journalists few most persistent. Place strange. Construction site, Cranes, concrete but at entrance on lawn ready spot for plaque. Priest same as at funeral blessed place, red prayer. Lord, rest soul of your servant Victor. Installed plaque under applause quiet, respectful. Marina laid flowers red carnations, father's favorites. Dad, she said quietly. Now all know who you were, what done to you. After ceremony sat in cafe small group, 10 people who care. Thank you, said Marina raising glass. All thank for memory of father. For Victor Stephen, supported Everett. Good man pity didn't finish all wanted. For honest people, added Paul, who can't silent even when dangerous. Drank silently as for dead. Talk dragged to evening recalled Keller, Depot, 90s. Scary time but alive when all changed, collapsed, built anew. Remember, said old mechanic. Keller came, and we believed possible honestly, possible different. Then he disappeared, added former cashier. And we stopped believe decided no honest, all steal. Mistaken, said Paul. He not steal he died for honesty. Died. Mechanic nodded. But now no after 30 years but no. Marina sat closer to Paul at end. Paul Nicholas, want ask. Listening. You regret anything? Paul thought. Regret? Regret silent 30 years, knew something off and silent. Why? Afraid like all. Time like that. And now? Now not afraid old already, what fear? Marina smiled. You not old you brave. Braver than think. Wasps brave they found. Wasps found bones you found truth. Different. Home returned late. Tamara slept on train head on shoulder. Paul looked out window at lights. Year passed whole year since they saw wasps on wheel. Year, and all changed. Truth out, guilty punished, memory restored. And he Paul Dawson simple bus driver in center of all. Strange, unusual but right. Winter news. Grayson died in colony heart attack at night, not revived. Paul learned from news. Convict in depot director murder case died in prison. Died pretty word for ugly death. What felt? Joy, satisfaction. No only emptiness. Grayson paid partially not for murder, for silence. Father real killer died unpunished. Justice partial not full but better than nothing. Spring Marina came to Trenton without warning surprise. Called from station. Paul Nicholas, I'm in city can meet. Of course. Where? At plaque want visit. Paul arrived hour later Marina already there, stood by granite slab with flowers. Residential complex almost finished high rises, balconies, playground. Life boils and plaque in corner at entrance. Modest, unnoticed but there. Built beautifully, said Marina. Dad would approve he loved all new, modern. Loved yes said Marina future for young. We build, they live. Philosopher was. Paul looked at high rises. Hundreds apartments, hundreds families live not knowing what here was. Or knowing plaque nearby, who once read. Walked city long, unhurried. Marina asked about Trenton, about life, about plans. You still work? Yes but soon retire. 57 age. What do? Don't know rest, babysit grandkids if appear. Kids have. No. Paul paused. Didn't work out. Tomorrow couldn't I not insist. Regret? Sometimes but what now? Life past. Not past. Marina smiled. You still young by now standards. Say also. Truth say. Whole life ahead especially after what did. Lunch in small cafe. Borscht, cutlets, compote simple food like Soviet cafeteria. No, said Marina. Thought a lot about you, about myself, about what happened and understood something. We connected you, me, Dad by thread invisible. What thread? Truth. You found truth about Dad and freed me. I accepted truth and freed myself. Dad got peace. Speak beautifully. Speak truth. Marina looked serious, attentively. You changed my life Paul Nicholas really changed. I just saw. You saw and didn't pass by. That's Maine. Saw her off at station evening train capital direction. 3 hours and home. Thank for coming, said Paul. Pleasant was. Me too. Marina hugged tight, warm. Take care yourself and tomorrow. Will. And come to capital visit apartment big, room enough. Maybe come sometime. Come definitely. Train started Marina waved from window till disappeared around bend. Paul stood on platform 1 in darkness looked at departing lights. Strange life, strange turns. Year ago he ordinary driver. Route, passengers, routine, nothing special. Now all different, found truth, restored justice, gained friend and daughter of man he barely knew. Life continues, and that's good. Summer Jubilee. Paul 57, not round date but important. Last work year. Celebrated modestly. Tomorrow, few friends, barbecue at cottage, guitar, songs. For you Paul, raised glass old friend. For real, not broke, not bent. For real, supported, rest, drank, friendly, fun. Paul looked at friends, at faces lit by campfire. Good people, simple, honest. Like Keller, like Grandpa once, like himself he wants believe. Evening call from Marina. Paul Nicholas, congrats birthday. Thank how no. Tamara said we correspond sometimes. Didn't know. Now know. Marina laughed. I have gift for you. What? Not say come to capital, see. Intrigue. Intrigue. Come soon, promise. Promise. To capital went in August together with Tamara. Train, subway, taxi 3 hours to Marina's apartment. Met joyful, warm hug both, led to room. Sit, tea coffee. Tea, said Tamara. Stronger. Marina bustled in kitchen and Paul looked around. Apartment big, bright books, paintings, photos. And on wall in frame portrait Keller. Young, smiling, same photo as on plaque. Returned, said Marina noticing gaze. Found in old albums enlarged. Now hangs as should. Beautiful. Right. She smiled. And now gift. Broad bundle big, rectangular. Open. Paul unwrapped and froze. Painting oil on canvas, in rich frame. Old Liège bus and on wheel wasps, black yellow, alive. Ordered from artist, said Marina. From photos so remember how all started. Paul looked at painting at bus, at wasps at beginning of story that changed all. Thank, he said. This means a lot. For me too. Marina took his hand. You part our family now forever. A year passed. Life continued, autumn to winter, winter to spring. Snow melted, leaves bloomed. Paul worked as usual. Route, passengers, road. But something changed. People looked different, not with curiosity, with respect. That Dawson who found. Paul didn't like fame, never sought but accepted as part of what did. Depot closed after confiscation, property sold at auction, buses scattered to other enterprises. Territory bought by developer, planned housing. Paul learned by chance from newspaper. On transit depot site build residential complex. Residential complex on place where man killed, where body lay 30 years wrong, totally wrong. In evening called Marina. Over year friends. Called weekly, sometimes more. Strange friendship between bus driver and capital doctor but real. Marina Victoria, it's Paul. Hello, Paul Nicholas. How things? Normal but bad news. What happened? Depot demolishing build housing. Pause. And? Nothing left, no memory. People lived not knowing what here was. Marina silent, thought. You want do something. Want monument or plaque so remember. Possible. Don't know but try. Tried. Next day went to administration to deputy mayor for culture. Young woman, energetic, listened attentively. You want memorial plaque? Yes, on place found body or nearby. Private territory, developer must agree. Talk to him. Woman paused. Try but no promise. Answer came month later. Developer agreed on condition, plaque not on complex territory but nearby at entrance on public land. Paul agreed main thing will be. Now money question. Plaque, installation, paperwork not millions but not pennies. Paul calculated not enough. Driver pension not splurge. Called Marina. Developer agreed but need money. How much? 100,000 roughly. I'll give. Marina Victoria, I not ask. No but want. This for dad for memory of him. Money collected together. Marina half, Paul with Tamara quarter, rest pitched by former depot workers who remembered Keller. Plaque ordered at workshop from acquaintance. Granite, gold letters. On this place in 1990 to killed Keller Victor Stephen depot director, honest man. 30 years truth hidden. Remember. Simple, strict like Keller himself. Plain and strict. Installation set for October exactly year after verdict. Symbolic. Many came. Marina with daughter, Paul with Tamara, Everett, former depot workers who remained, journalists few most persistent. Place strange. Construction site, Cranes, concrete but at entrance on lawn ready spot for plaque. Priest same as at funeral blessed place, red prayer. Lord, rest soul of your servant Victor. Installed plaque under applause quiet, respectful. Marina laid flowers red carnations, father's favorites. Dad, she said quietly. Now all know who you were, what done to you. After ceremony sat in cafe small group, 10 people who care. Thank you, said Marina raising glass. All thank for memory of father. For Victor Stephen, supported Everett. Good man pity didn't finish all wanted. For honest people, added Paul, who can't silent even when dangerous. Drank silently as for dead. Talk dragged to evening recalled Keller, Depot, 90s. Scary time but alive when all changed, collapsed, built anew. Remember, said old mechanic. Keller came, and we believed possible honestly, possible different. Then he disappeared, added former cashier. And we stopped believe decided no honest, all steal. Mistaken, said Paul. He not steal he died for honesty. Died. Mechanic nodded. But now no after 30 years but no. Marina sat closer to Paul at end. Paul Nicholas, want ask. Listening. You regret anything? Paul thought. Regret? Regret silent 30 years, knew something off and silent. Why? Afraid like all. Time like that. And now? Now not afraid old already, what fear? Marina smiled. You not old you brave. Braver than think. Wasps brave they found. Wasps found bones you found truth. Different. Home returned late. Tamara slept on train head on shoulder. Paul looked out window at lights. Year passed whole year since they saw wasps on wheel. Year, and all changed. Truth out, guilty punished, memory restored. And he Paul Dawson simple bus driver in center of all. Strange, unusual but right. Winter news. Grayson died in colony heart attack at night, not revived. Paul learned from news. Convict in depot director murder case died in prison. Died pretty word for ugly death. What felt? Joy, satisfaction. No only emptiness. Grayson paid partially not for murder, for silence. Father real killer died unpunished. Justice partial not full but better than nothing. Spring Marina came to Trenton without warning surprise. Called from station. Paul Nicholas, I'm in city can meet. Of course. Where? At plaque want visit. Paul arrived hour later Marina already there, stood by granite slab with flowers. Residential complex almost finished high rises, balconies, playground. Life boils and plaque in corner at entrance. Modest, unnoticed but there. Built beautifully. Said Marina. Dad would approve he loved all new, modern. Loved yes said Marina future for young. We build, they live. Philosopher was. Paul looked at high rises. Hundreds apartments, hundreds families live not knowing what here was. Or knowing plaque nearby, who once read. Walked city long, unhurried. Marina asked about Trenton, about life, about plans. You still work? Yes but soon retire. 57 age. What do? Don't know rest, fish maybe. Good plan simple but mine. Lunch in small cafe. Borscht, cutlets, compote simple food like Soviet cafeteria. No, said Marina. Thought a lot about you, about myself, about what happened and understood something. We connected you, me, Dad by thread invisible. What thread? Truth. You found truth about Dad and freed me. I accepted truth and freed myself. Dad got peace. Speak beautifully. Speak truth. Marina looked serious, attentively. You changed my life Paul Nicholas really changed. I just saw wasps. You saw and didn't pass by. That's Maine. Saw her off at station evening train capital direction. 3 hours and home. Thank for coming, said Paul. Pleasant was. Me too. Marina hugged tight, warm. Take care yourself and tomorrow. Will. And come to Capitol visit apartment big, room enough. Maybe come sometime. Come definitely. Train started Marina waved from window till disappeared around bend. Paul stood on platform in darkness looked at departing lights. Strange life, strange turn. 2 years ago he ordinary driver. Route, passengers, routine nothing special. Now all different found truth, restored justice, gained friend and daughter of man he barely knew. Life continues and that's good. Summer to plaque people pulled not crowds but not singles. Journalists, local historians, just curious. Read, photographed, asked. One woman elderly with cane approached Paul. You found? Yes. Thank. My husband disappeared in 95 also said Ran, but I not believe. Search don't give up. Will search now definitely will. Left with hope in eyes. Paul watched after such stories thousands across country. People search truth about loved ones. Maybe his story helps someone give strength search, not surrender. That's meaning real, deep. Autumn anniversary plaque installation. Gathered again fewer than last year but same faces. Who not all equal. Marina came from Capital with bouquet, with smile. Year passed, she said. Year since Dad got his place. 2 years since found, added Paul. Yes, 2 years since you saw wasps. Stood silently by granite slab. Autumn, leaves, wind. Life continues. Paul looked at plaque at name, at dates. Remember main word, most important. No, he said to Marina. I earlier not understood why monuments, plaques for dead all same. And now understand this not for dead, this for living so remember, so not repeat. Right understand. Your father honest man died for honesty. If even one read, think means not in vain. Not in vain, nodded Marina. Definitely not in vain. Evening in cafe like last year. Close company, quiet talk. For Victor Stephen, raised glass Paul. For honest man. For honest, repeated all. And for those who search truth, added Marina. For you Paul Nicholas for all us. Together found. Drank silently no clink. Late evening Paul sat in kitchen Tamara slept. House quiet, dark. Looked out window at stars, at moon. 2 years how all changed. Wasps found bones he found truth Marina found father. Circle closed. Story ended or just began. Plaque stands people read, remember. Someone inspired searches own truth. That's life no feats, no medals. Just do right when cannot do. Paul stood, went to window. Thank, said quietly. Victor Stephen for lesson, for example. I'll try be honest to end. Moon shone bright, calm stars twinkled. Somewhere up there Keller looked down and smiled. Peace at last peace. And so ended story of driver Paul the man who saw wasps on wheel and didn't pass by. Victor Keller honest director died for truth. 30 years lay in pit forgotten, abandoned but waited. Wasps found his bones man found truth. This story reminder that truth always comes out, that silence complicity, that ordinary people can be heroes. No need feats, no need medals just don't pass by, just don't silent. Wasps found, and you will find. Liked story. Like, subscribe to channel. Write in comments from what city you and how old you. Believe truth always wins. Have in your life stories when silence was complicity. Ahead new stories even more captivating, even more unexpected. Don't miss.